Hey everyone, I'm Sarah, and I need to tell you guys about the most insane family drama that just went down. Like, seriously, you're not gonna believe this mess. So grab your popcorn because this story is wild from start to finish. It all started 3 weeks ago when I got this text from my dad. Now let me paint you a picture here. My dad, Robert Mitchell, is this super uptight insurance broker from Millfield, Connecticut. The kind of guy who still uses a flip phone and thinks emojis are unprofessional. So when I saw his name pop up on my screen, I already knew something was up. The text was short and sweet. Sarah, stay away from the reunion this year. Trust me on this one. Now, I'm sitting in my tiny apartment in Brooklyn, eating leftover Chinese takeout, and I'm like, what the hell, Dad? This is our annual Mitchell family reunion we're talking about, the one event that brings together all our crazy relatives from across New England. It's been happening every summer for like 25 years at my Uncle Tom's lake house in New Hampshire. I've been going to this thing since I was 7 years old. It's where I learned to water ski, where I had my first kiss behind the boathouse with my second cousin's friend. Don't judge, we were kids. And where I've spent every 4th of July weekend for the past 2 decades. My dad telling me to skip it? That's like telling a Red Sox fan to root for the Yankees. So naturally, I called him right away. But here's where it gets weird. He didn't pick up. My dad always picks up. The man answers his phone like it's his job. I tried 3 more times. Nothing. Then I texted back, Dad, what's going on? Why can't I come to the reunion? Radio silence for 2 whole days. Meanwhile, I'm going crazy trying to figure out what's happening. I called my mom. They've been divorced for about 8 years now, and she had no clue what I was talking about. Honey, your father's been acting strange lately, but I just figured it was his midlife crisis finally kicking in, she said, while I could hear her new boyfriend's motorcycle revving in the background. Then I tried my Aunt Linda, Dad's sister. She's usually the family gossip queen, knows everything about everyone. But when I mentioned the reunion, she got all quiet and weird. Oh, sweetie, maybe you should just listen to your father this time, she said in this super uncomfortable voice. Listen to my father? Lady, I haven't listened to my father since I was 16, and he told me not to major in journalism because nobody reads newspapers anymore. Joke's on him. I'm now a freelance writer making decent money covering everything from food blogs to true crime podcasts for various online magazines. But something in Linda's voice made my stomach drop. There was this tone, you know? Like when adults are trying to protect you from something really bad, but they're doing a terrible job of hiding it. That's when I decided to do what any self-respecting millennial would do. I started stalking the family Facebook pages. And let me tell you, that's where things got really interesting. My cousin Jake had posted about being excited for the big family announcement at the reunion. My great-aunt Margaret shared some cryptic post about family secrets coming to light. And my Uncle Tom, the one who hosts the whole thing, had been unusually quiet on social media for weeks. The more I dug, the more I realized that everyone seemed to know something I didn't. And that feeling of being left out of your own family's drama, it sucks big time. So I made a decision that would change everything. I texted my dad back. This time I actually will stay away. But I want to know why. What happened next? Well, that's when my whole world got turned upside down. But before I continue with this crazy story, do me a favor. Hit that like button if you're already hooked. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from, and make sure to follow for the rest of this wild ride. Trust me, you're going to want to stick around for what comes next. Because what my dad told me 3 days later, it wasn't just about the reunion. It was about a secret that had been tearing our family apart for over 20 years. 3 days later, at exactly 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night, my phone rang. I was binge-watching some Netflix show, probably my 3rd bowl of ice cream in hand, when Dad's name flashed on my screen. Sarah. His voice was different, strained, like he'd been crying or something, which was impossible because my dad doesn't cry. I've seen this man through my parents' messy divorce, his father's funeral, and even when his beloved Patriots lost the Super Bowl in 2018, the man's basically made of stone. Dad, are you okay? I need to tell you something, and I need you to promise me you'll listen to the whole thing before you hang up on me. My heart started pounding. Dad, you're scaring me. What's going on? There was this long pause, and I could hear him breathing heavily on the other end. Sarah, the reason I don't want you at the reunion, it's because your Uncle Tom is planning to tell everyone the truth about something that happened 23 years ago. Something about you. About me? Dad, I was like 4 years old 23 years ago. What could possibly... You're not my biological daughter. The words hit me like a freight train. I literally dropped my phone and had to scramble to pick it up off my hardwood floor. What did you just say? Sarah, sweetheart, I've raised you since you were born. You are my daughter in every way that matters. But biologically, you're Tom's. I felt like I was going to throw up. Uncle Tom? My mom cheated with Uncle Tom? It wasn't cheating, exactly. Your mom and we were separated for about 6 months back then, going through counseling, trying to figure out if our marriage was worth saving. She stayed at Tom's lake house for a few weeks and, oh my God, Dad. I was pacing around my tiny apartment like a caged animal. So Uncle Tom is actually and you've known this whole time? Your mom told me right before we got back together. She was pregnant. Didn't know whose baby you were until after you were born. We did a paternity test privately. But Sarah, I made the choice to raise you. I wanted to raise you. You've been my little girl from day one. My mind was racing 1,000,000 miles per hour. All those family reunions. All those times, Uncle Tom would ruffle my hair and call me his favorite niece. The way he always made sure I got the best room at the lake house. How he taught me to drive his boat when I was only 12. How he'd slip me $20 when my dad wasn't looking. Does he know? I whispered. Another long pause. Yes, he's always known. And Aunt Linda? No. Nobody else knows except your mom, me, and Tom. But Tom's been drinking heavily lately. His marriage to Linda is falling apart. They're getting divorced after the reunion. He says he wants to clear his conscience. Wants to tell everyone the truth. Says he's tired of living a lie. I sank down onto my couch, feeling like my entire world had just crumbled. So my whole life has been a lie. No, baby girl. Your life has been real. My love for you has been real. The way I've protected you, supported you, cheered you on. That's all been 100% real. Biology doesn't change that. But I wasn't really hearing him anymore. I was thinking about all the family photos, all the times people said I looked just like my dad, all the Father's Day cards I'd made him in elementary school. Was it all just fake? Sarah, are you still there? Yeah, I'm here. My voice sounded hollow, even to me. So that's why you don't want me at the reunion. Because Uncle Tom, my actual father, is going to announce to the entire family that I'm his daughter? I can't control what Tom does, but I thought maybe if you weren't there, he might reconsider, or at least give us more time to figure out how to handle this. How long has he been planning this? Since Linda filed for divorce 3 months ago. He's been spiraling, Sarah. Drinking, making bad decisions. I think he believes that coming clean about everything will somehow make him feel better about the mess his life has become. I was quiet for a long time, just trying to process everything. Finally, I asked the question that was burning in my chest. Do you think he wants me to know because he wants to be my dad now? The silence on the other end told me everything I needed to know. Sarah, I don't know what Tom wants, but I know what I want. I want you to stay my daughter. I want our relationship to stay exactly the same. I want you to keep calling me Dad, and I want to keep walking you down the aisle someday, and I want to keep being the one you call when your car breaks down or when some guy breaks your heart. I started crying then, like really crying. Dad, I don't know what to do with this information. You don't have to do anything with it right now. Just, please stay away from the reunion. Let me try to talk Tom out of this crazy idea. Give us some time to figure out the right way to handle everything. But even as I promised him I'd stay away, I knew I was lying, because there was no way in hell I was missing this reunion now. Not when my entire identity was about to be blown up in front of my entire family. I needed to see this train wreck for myself. I spent the next 4 days in a complete daze. I called in sick to work, lived off of DoorDash, and basically turned into a zombie scrolling through old family photos on my phone. Every picture felt different now. Every smile, every hug, every father-daughter moment. It all had this weird filter over it. I kept staring at this one photo from last Christmas. Me, Dad, and Uncle Tom around the dinner table at Mom's new place in Hartford. Uncle Tom has his arm around my shoulders, and we're both laughing at something Dad said. Now I couldn't unsee it. The way Tom's eyes crinkled exactly like mine when he smiled. How we both had that same weird laugh where we snored a little. How his hands were shaped exactly like mine. God, how had I never noticed? I tried calling my mom about a dozen times, but she was apparently on some romantic getaway with Motorcycle Mike. Yes, that's what I call her boyfriend. Somewhere in the Adirondacks with no cell service. Perfect timing, Mom. Really. By Friday, I'd made my decision. I was going to that reunion. I know. I'd promised Dad I'd stay away. But here's the thing. I'm a journalist, right? My whole job is uncovering the truth, digging into stories that people don't want told. And this was the biggest story of my life, and I was living it. Plus, I had questions. Like a million questions. Did Uncle Tom really want to blow up our family just to make himself feel better? What was he planning to say exactly? How was Aunt Linda going to react when she found out her husband had been hiding this massive secret their entire marriage? And what about their kids? My cousins Jake and Emma. They were about to find out that their cousin Sarah was actually their half-sister. The whole thing was like a soap opera, except it was my actual life. So I packed my bag, loaded up my beat-up Honda Civic with enough snacks for the 3-hour drive to New Hampshire, and hit the road early Saturday morning. I'd figure out where to stay when I got there, maybe the little motel in town, or I could always sleep in my car if it came to that. The drive gave me way too much time to think. I kept playing out different scenarios in my head. Maybe I'd show up and Uncle Tom would chicken out. Maybe he'd see me there and realize what a terrible idea this whole confession thing was. Maybe we could all just pretend this conversation never happened and go back to our normal, slightly dysfunctional but manageable family dynamic. But deep down, I knew that wasn't going to happen. You can't put toothpaste back in the tube, you know? And this secret had been eating at Tom for over 20 years. He was going to tell everyone, whether I was there or not. At least if I was there, I could control the narrative a little bit. Maybe jump in before he said something that would hurt Dad unnecessarily. Maybe protect the man who'd raised me from having his role in my life diminished in front of everyone. Because here's what I'd figured out during those 4 days of moping around my apartment. Robert Mitchell might not be my biological father, but he was absolutely, 100% my dad. He's the one who taught me to ride a bike, who helped me with my math homework, who threatened my high school boyfriend when he broke up with me via text message. He's the one who drove 8 hours round trip every parents' weekend when I was at UConn, who celebrated when I got my first freelance writing gig, who still sends me care packages even though I'm 27 years old, and perfectly capable of buying my own granola bars. Tom might have contributed some DNA, but Dad raised me, and I wasn't about to let anyone take that away from him. I pulled into the familiar gravel driveway of Uncle Tom's lake house around 2 p.m. The place looked exactly the same. Big white colonial with green shutters, American flag hanging from the front porch, Tom's boat already in the water. Cars were scattered all over the lawn, meaning most of the family had already arrived. I sat in my car for about 10 minutes, just staring at the house and trying to work up the courage to go inside. My phone buzzed with a text from Dad. "Please tell me you're still in Brooklyn." I turned off my phone without responding. Time to face whatever was about to happen. I grabbed my overnight bag and walked up to the front door, my heart beating so loud I was sure the neighbors could hear it. Through the screen door, I could hear the familiar sounds of a Mitchell family gathering. My great-aunt Margaret's cackling laugh, kids splashing in the lake, someone arguing about whether the Patriots or the Giants were having a better season. Normal family stuff, except nothing was normal anymore. I knocked on the door, and within seconds my cousin Jake appeared. "Sarah, oh my God, what are you doing here? Dad said you weren't coming this year." He pulled me into a big hug, and I had to fight back tears thinking about how he was about to find out I was his half-sister. "Change of plans," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Where is everyone?" "Out back by the lake. But hey, fair warning. Dad's been acting super weird all day, like weirder than usual. Mom's been giving him the silent treatment since they got here." Perfect. Tom and Linda were already fighting, which meant the divorce drama was already in full swing. Adding a paternity bombshell to that mix was going to be like throwing gasoline on a fire. "Where's your dad now?" I asked. Jake pointed toward the back of the house. "Down by the dock with Uncle Rob. They've been talking privately for like an hour." Uncle Rob, my dad, down at the dock having what was probably the most intense conversation of both their lives. I was about to walk into the middle of a family explosion, and there was no turning back now. I dropped my bag in the hallway and made my way through the house, nodding at relatives and making small talk, but my mind was completely focused on getting to that dock. Aunt Margaret grabbed my arm as I passed through the kitchen. "Sarah, honey, I didn't think you were coming this year. Your father said..." "Yeah, change of plans, Aunt Maggie. I'll catch up with you later, okay?" I kept walking before she could ask any more questions. The back porch was packed with family members, cousins sprawled on lawn chairs, kids running around with water balloons, my second cousin Beth manning the grill. But my eyes went straight to the dock, where I could see 2 figures standing at the very end, their body language tense as hell. Dad, and Uncle Tom. I walked down the sloping lawn toward the water, my sandals slipping a little on the wet grass. As I got closer, I could hear their voices getting louder. Not your decision to make anymore, Rob. I'm tired of living with this guilt. And what about Sarah's feelings? What about Linda's? You're going to destroy multiple lives just to make yourself feel better. Maybe Linda deserves to know the truth about who she's been married to all these years. Tom, you're drunk. This isn't the time. I'm not drunk yet, but I plan to be by tonight when I tell everyone. That's when I stepped onto the dock, and both men turned around. Dad's face went completely white when he saw me. Sarah, what are you doing here? Uncle Tom just stared at me with this weird expression, like he was seeing me for the first time, which, in a way, I guess he was. He wasn't looking at his niece anymore. He was looking at his daughter. Hi, Dad, I said to Robert, then turned to Tom. Uncle Tom. The word felt weird in my mouth now. Uncle. This man who'd been my uncle my entire life was actually my biological father, and I had no idea how to process that. Sarah, I told you to stay home, Dad said, his voice strained. Yeah, well, I've never been great at following directions. I looked between the two of them. So, I hear we have some family drama to discuss. Tom let out this bitter laugh. Family drama. That's one way to put it. He looked older than I remembered. More worn down. His hair was grayer, his face more lined, and there were dark circles under his eyes that matched mine exactly, something I'd never noticed before. Tom, please, Dad said quietly. Don't do this. Not like this. But Tom was looking right at me now, and there was something desperate in his eyes. Sarah, do you know why I invited the whole family here this weekend? To celebrate the 4th of July like every year? No. I invited everyone here because Linda's filing for divorce, and I wanted to have one last family gathering before everything falls apart. But then I realized I can't keep lying anymore. I can't keep pretending that you're just my niece when you're so much more than that. My heart was pounding. Tom, you're my daughter, Sarah, and I've missed 27 years of being your real father because I was too much of a coward to speak up when it mattered. Dad stepped between us. She is my daughter, Tom. I've raised her. I've been there for every scraped knee, every broken heart, every triumph. You don't get to just claim her now because your marriage is falling apart. But she has a right to know the truth. She knows the truth. Dad's voice was getting louder. I told her everything, and I asked her to stay away so we could handle this privately, like adults. But apparently nobody in this family is capable of that. I held up my hands. Okay, both of you need to calm down before the entire family hears you arguing. I looked around. A few cousins were already glancing our way from the porch. Tom ran his hands through his hair. I'm sorry, Sarah. This isn't how I wanted you to find out. I wanted to, have a conversation. Get to know you as my daughter instead of just my niece. And then what? I asked. You were just going to announce it to everyone at dinner tonight? Hey everyone, pass the potato salad, and by the way, Sarah's actually my kid. I thought if everyone knew, we could start fresh, be honest with each other. Dad shook his head. Tom, you're thinking about yourself, not about Sarah, not about Linda, not about your kids, not about our parents. You're thinking about your guilt. Maybe I am, but maybe that's okay. Maybe it's time I dealt with my guilt instead of pretending everything's fine. I looked at both of them. These two men who'd shaped my entire life in different ways. Dad, who'd given me everything a father should give, and Tom, who'd been this fun, loving presence on the periphery of my life, never knowing he was actually looking at his own child. Can I ask you guys something? I said finally. They both nodded. Tom, why now? Why after all these years do you suddenly need everyone to know? He was quiet for a long moment. Because I'm watching my marriage fall apart, and I realize that most of it is built on lies. Linda doesn't know about you. She doesn't know that every time I look at you, I see myself. She doesn't know that I've been sending money to your college fund for years without telling her. She doesn't know that I've been living with this massive secret that affects our entire family. You've been sending money to my college fund? I looked at Dad, who looked away. Tom's been contributing to your education expenses since you were in high school, Dad admitted. I wanted to tell you, but you thought it was better to keep lying to me. We thought it was better to not complicate your life unnecessarily. I sat down on the edge of the dock, dangling my feet in the water. So let me get this straight. You two have been co-parenting me my entire life, and I'm the only one who didn't know about it. Tom sat down next to me. Sarah, I never wanted to replace Rob as your father. He's done an amazing job raising you, but I did want to contribute, to be part of your life in whatever way I could. And now you want to blow up the entire family to, what? Ease your conscience? I want to stop living a lie. Dad sat down on my other side, and I want to protect you from unnecessary pain. Some truths don't need to be told. I looked out over the lake, watching some of my younger cousins playing on the raft. In a few hours, they might all know that their family tree was way more complicated than they'd ever imagined. What if I made the decision? I said finally. Both men looked at me. What if I decided whether or not to tell everyone? This is my life you're arguing about. Shouldn't I get a say in how my own story gets told? That's when we heard footsteps on the dock behind us, and a voice that made my blood run cold. Well, well, what do we have here? A little family meeting? It was Aunt Linda, and from the look on her face, she'd heard every single word. Linda stood at the end of the dock like an avenging angel, her usually perfect blonde hair slightly disheveled, her face pale with shock and rage. She was holding a wine glass in one hand and gripping her phone in the other so tightly her knuckles were white. "How long?" she asked, her voice deadly quiet. Tom stood up slowly. "Linda, let me explain." "How long?" Each word was like a gunshot. 27 years, he whispered. She let out this sound. Not quite a laugh, not quite a sob. 27 years. Our entire marriage. You've been lying to me for our entire marriage. I felt like I was watching a car crash in slow motion. Dad tried to stand up, probably to play peacemaker, but Linda held up her hand. "Don't you dare, Robert. You've been lying to me too. All those family gatherings, all those times I commented on how much Sarah looked like Tom, all those jokes about how she got his stubborn streak, and you all just sat there and let me make a fool of myself." "Linda, we were trying to protect..." Dad started. "Protect who? Me? You were protecting me by letting me live a lie for almost 3 decades? She turned to look at me, and I saw tears streaming down her face. "Sarah, honey, I am so sorry. I'm sorry you're finding out like this, and I'm sorry that your entire life has been built on lies. Aunt Linda, I'm not your aunt, am I?" Her voice cracked. "God, I've been your stepmother this whole time and didn't even know it. No wonder you were always his favorite. No wonder he insisted on paying for your college even when we were struggling with Jake's tuition." Tom reached for her, but she stepped back like he'd burned her. "Don't touch me. Don't you dare touch me. Linda, please. Can we talk about this privately?" "Privately? Like how you've been handling this for 27 years. She laughed bitterly. "No, Tom. I'm done with private conversations. I'm done with secrets." That's when I realized what she was about to do. "Linda, wait!" But she was already walking back toward the house, moving fast. Tom tried to follow her, but she was practically running now. "She's going to tell everyone," I said, my heart sinking. Dad stood up. "We have to stop her." But it was too late. By the time we got back to the house, Linda was standing on the back porch with all 20-something members of our extended family staring at her in confusion. Her wine glass was gone, replaced by what looked like a very strong whiskey on the rocks. "Everyone, can I have your attention, please?" Her voice was too bright, too cheerful, the kind of voice people use when they're about to completely lose it. My cousin Jake looked confused. "Mom, what's going on?" "Well, sweetie, I just found out something very interesting about our family. Something that your father has been keeping from all of us for..." "Oh, what was it, Tom? 27 years?" Tom had caught up to us by then, and he looked like he was going to throw up. "Linda, please don't do this." "Oh, now you're worried about airing our dirty laundry in public?" She took a big sip of her drink. "Interesting." Great Aunt Margaret stepped forward. "Linda, dear, maybe you should sit down. You seem upset." "Upset?" "Oh, Margaret, I'm not upset. I'm enlightened. You see, I just discovered that my husband has been hiding the fact that Sarah isn't actually Robert's daughter. She's Tom's daughter, my husband's daughter, with his brother's wife." The silence that followed was deafening. I could literally hear the lake water lapping against the shore, someone's beer can hitting the ground, a kid in the distance asking his mom what adultery meant. Jake's face went through about 5 different emotions in the span of 2 seconds. "What do you mean, Sarah's..." "What?" Emma, my other cousin, Tom and Linda's daughter, just stared at me like she'd never seen me before. "So you're our sister?" "Half-sister," Linda corrected with that same bitter smile. "Because apparently, I'm the only one in this family who believes in accuracy. My mom's sister, Aunt Carol, looked like she was going to faint." "Robert, is this true?" Dad looked around at all the faces staring at him, then at me. For a moment, I thought he might deny it. might try to minimize the damage, but instead, he straightened his shoulders and said, "Yes, it's true. Sarah is biologically Tom's daughter, but she's been my daughter in every way that matters since the day she was born." "Oh, how noble," Linda said, "the saint who raised his brother's bastard child." "Don't you dare call her that," Dad snapped, and I'd never heard him sound so angry. But Linda was on a roll now, 27 years of suppressed anger and hurt pouring out all at once. And the best part, they've all been lying to me about it. Tom, Robert, even Sarah's mother. They all knew, and they all decided that poor stupid Linda couldn't handle the truth. Uncle Pete, Dad's youngest brother, cleared his throat. "Maybe we should all take a step back here." "No, Pete, I'm tired of stepping back. I'm tired of being the only one who doesn't know what's going on in my own family." Linda turned to Tom. "Tell them about the money. Tell them how you've been secretly supporting Sarah for years, while I wondered why we never had enough for family vacations." Tom's face was gray. "Linda, tell them how you insisted we invite Robert and Sarah to every holiday, every birthday, every family event, because you couldn't bear to be away from your secret daughter." I felt like I was drowning. All these people staring at me, processing this information, realizing that every family photo, every shared memory, had a different meaning than they'd thought. My little cousin Amy, who couldn't be more than 10 years old, tugged on her mom's shirt. "Mommy, why is everyone yelling?" That's when I couldn't take it anymore. I stepped forward, my voice cutting through Linda's tirade. "Stop. Just, everybody stop." The entire porch went quiet. "Linda, I get that you're hurt. I get that you feel betrayed. But taking it out on everyone else isn't going to make you feel better." She turned to me, her eyes flashing. "Don't you dare lecture me about how to handle this, Sarah. You've known for what? A week? I've been living the lie for decades. Actually, I've known for exactly 6 days. And you know what I've figured out in those 6 days? Biology doesn't make a family. The people who show up for you, who support you, who love you unconditionally, that's what makes a family." I looked around at all my relatives, my heart breaking a little. Tom might be my biological father, but Rob Mitchell is my dad. He's the one who taught me to drive, who walked me to school on my first day of kindergarten, who stayed up all night with me when I had pneumonia in college. Tom contributed DNA, but Dad raised me. But it was still based on a lie, Jake said quietly. He looked confused and hurt, and I couldn't blame him. "Yeah, it was, and I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry that the adults in our family thought they were protecting us by keeping secrets, but I'm not sorry about the relationship I have with any of you." I turned to Tom, who was standing there looking like his world had collapsed. "Tom, I don't blame you for wanting to tell the truth, but this wasn't the way to do it." Then I looked at Linda, who was crying now, her anger deflating into pure grief. "And Linda, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you found out this way, and I'm sorry that you feel like your whole marriage was a lie. But Jake and Emma are still your kids, and Tom made a mistake 27 years ago, but he's not a monster." But Linda shook her head. I can't do this. I can't pretend that everything's going to be okay now that the truth is out." She set down her drink and grabbed her purse from a nearby chair. "Jake, Emma, pack your things. We're leaving." "Mom, wait," Emma started. "No, I've spent enough years at family gatherings that were built on lies. I'm done." And with that, she walked through the house and out the front door, leaving the rest of us standing there in the wreckage of what used to be a normal family reunion. That's when I realized that telling the truth doesn't always set you free. Sometimes it just destroys everything you thought you knew about your life. The silence after Linda left was deafening. 20-something relatives just standing around, looking at each other like we were all strangers meeting for the first time. Which, in a way, I guess we were. Jake was the first one to move. He ran after his mom, calling, "Mom, wait," but we could already hear her car starting in the driveway. A minute later, he came back, looking lost. "She won't listen to me. She says she needs time to think." Emma was crying now, and I went over to hug her. She stiffened for a second, probably trying to figure out if hugging her newly discovered half-sister was weird, but then she hugged me back. "I can't believe this is happening," she whispered. "Everything feels different now." "I know, Em, I know." Great Aunt Margaret, bless her heart, started taking charge like she always did during family crises. "All right, everyone. I think we all need to take a breath and figure out how to move forward from here." "Move forward?" Uncle Pete shook his head. "Margaret, our family just imploded. Tom's been lying to all of us for nearly 3 decades. Linda just stormed out. And now we're supposed to what? Pretend everything's fine and have a barbecue? Tom finally spoke up, his voice barely above a whisper. I never meant for it to happen like this. Then how did you mean for it to happen? Dad asked. What was your plan exactly? I don't know. I thought if everyone knew the truth, we could all be honest with each other. I thought maybe Linda would understand why I've been so distant lately, why I've been drinking more. I thought maybe Sarah and I could have a real relationship instead of this weird uncle-niece thing where I have to pretend I don't care about her more than I should. That hit me right in the chest. Tom, you didn't have to pretend anything. You've always been important to me. The fact that you're my biological father doesn't change that you were already one of my favorite people in this family, but it was built on a lie. My cousin Beth, who'd been quiet through the whole thing, finally spoke up. So what? Most family relationships are built on some kind of lie or secret or thing we don't talk about. Grandpa never told us he was an alcoholic, but we all knew. Aunt Susan never told us her first husband hit her, but we all figured it out. Uncle Mike never told us he was gay until he was 55, but we all had our suspicions. She looked around at everyone. Families are messy. People make mistakes. People keep secrets because they think they're protecting the people they love. That doesn't make them evil. But this is different, Amy's mom said. This is about paternity. This is about the basic structure of our family. Is it, though? I asked. I mean, really, what's changed? Tom is still Tom. Dad is still Dad. I'm still me. The only thing that's different is that now we all know something we didn't know before. But Linda is hurt, and she has every right to be. But that's between her and Tom. The rest of us, we can choose how we want to handle this. Jake sat down heavily in one of the lawn chairs. I don't know how to handle this. I don't know how to think about you as my half-sister instead of my cousin. I don't know how to think about my dad as someone who would hide something this big for so long. Tom walked over to his son. Jake, I know I screwed up. I know I should have told your mom years ago, should have been honest from the beginning. But I was young and scared, and I thought I was doing the right thing. Were you in love with Aunt Michelle? Emma asked quietly. The question hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Tom was quiet for a long moment. I was in love with the idea of her, he said finally. Your mom and I were high school sweethearts. Got married when we were barely 21. Michelle was older, seemed more sophisticated. When she and Robert separated and she came to stay at the lake house, it felt like an escape from real life, but it wasn't real love. It was just confusion and bad timing and too much beer on a lonely night. Dad nodded. Your mom and I were going through counseling, trying to figure out if we wanted to stay married. We'd agreed to see other people during our separation. Nobody did anything wrong, technically, except for the part where you didn't tell Linda for 27 years, Pete pointed out. Yeah, Tom said, except for that part. I looked around at my family, this group of people who'd suddenly gotten a lot more complicated than they'd been that morning. So what do we do now? We figure it out as we go, Margaret said firmly. We're family. Messy, complicated, imperfect family, but family nonetheless. That doesn't change. But what about Linda? What about the kids? Linda needs time, Dad said, and we need to respect that. Tom, you're going to have to do some serious work to rebuild trust with your wife and kids. If she'll let me, Tom said miserably. And Sarah, Margaret looked at me. You need to decide what kind of relationship you want with Tom going forward, now that everything's out in the open. I looked at Tom, this man who'd been my fun uncle, my secret biological father. And now, what? I honestly didn't know. I don't want anything to change between me and Dad, I said firmly. Robert Mitchell raised me, and he's my father, period. Dad's eyes filled with tears, and he pulled me into a hug. But Tom, I continued, turning to face him, I'd like to get to know you better. Not as a replacement for Dad, but as, I don't know, as the person who gave me half my DNA, and who's been quietly caring about me my whole life. Tom's face crumpled, and for the first time since I'd known him, I saw him cry. I'd like that too, Sarah. More than you know. Jake stood up suddenly. I need some air. This is all. It's too much. He walked toward the lake and Emma followed him. I watched them go, my heart aching for them. Their parents' marriage was falling apart. They'd just found out their cousin was actually their half-sister, and their whole family dynamic had been turned upside down in the span of 20 minutes. Maybe we should call it a day, Uncle Pete suggested. Give everyone some time to process. But Great Aunt Margaret shook her head. Absolutely not. We're going to have dinner. We're going to act like the family we are. And we're going to show these kids that love doesn't disappear just because the truth comes out. And you know what? She was right. We did have dinner. It was awkward as hell, and there were definitely some strained conversations, but we did it. We sat around Tom's big dining room table, passed the corn on the cob and potato salad, and tried to figure out how to be a family that looked a little different than it had that morning. The thing is, families are resilient. People are resilient. And sometimes the truth, even when it hurts, is better than living with secrets that eat away at you from the inside. But I had no idea that the biggest revelation was still coming. Later that evening, after most of the relatives had gone to their hotels or driven home, I was sitting on the dock with Dad and Tom, watching the sunset over the lake. The three of us had been talking for hours, really talking, maybe for the first time in my adult life. Tom had told me stories about my early childhood that I'd never heard, little moments when he'd wanted so badly to be more involved but had to hold back. Dad had shared how hard it had been to raise me knowing that another man was my biological father, but how he'd never once regretted the decision. It was healing, in a weird way. Painful, but healing. That's when Jake came walking down the dock, carrying an old shoebox. Dad, I found this in Mom's closet when I was packing her things. He looked exhausted. She told me to bring it to you before I drive home. Tom took the box with shaking hands. What is it? I don't know. She just said you'd understand, and that maybe it was time for all the secrets to come out. Tom opened the box, and his face went completely white. Inside were dozens of letters, all addressed to him in handwriting I didn't recognize. He pulled one out and read the return address. Oh my God, what is it? I asked. He looked up at me with tears in his eyes. Sarah, these are letters from your mother. Letters she wrote to me after you were born. Letters I never got because Linda intercepted them. My heart stopped. What? Tom pulled out letter after letter, all unopened, all postmarked from when I was a baby, a toddler, a young kid. Your mom tried to contact me for years. She wanted to tell me about you, wanted me to be part of your life. She sent pictures, updates about your first steps, your first words. He opened one of the letters with trembling hands and read aloud. Tom, Sarah said Dada today, and I couldn't help but wonder if she somehow knows. She has your eyes, your smile. I know we agreed to let Robert raise her, but I thought you might want to know that she's healthy and happy and beautiful. If you ever want to see her, we could arrange something. She should know her father. Love, Michelle. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Mom tried to contact you? For years? Tom nodded, tears streaming down his face. I never got any of these. I thought she wanted nothing to do with me. I thought she wanted to pretend that night never happened. Dad was reading over Tom's shoulder. There are dozens of them, Sarah. Your mom tried to include Tom in your life for years, and Linda kept them from you. It wasn't a question. The pieces were falling into place. Jake looked sick. Mom knew. She knew that Aunt Michelle was trying to contact Dad, and she hid the letters. Tom opened another letter, this one from when I was about 5. Tom, Sarah started kindergarten today. She was so brave, didn't cry at all. She made me promise to pack extra cookies in her lunch so she could share with kids who might not have any. I thought you'd want to know what a kind little girl she's growing up to be. There's a school play next month. She's playing a flower. I know it's complicated, but if you wanted to come, we could figure out a way. She asks about you sometimes, calls you her fun uncle. Maybe someday she could know you're more than that. Love, Michelle. I was crying now, thinking about my mom writing these letters, hoping to connect Tom with his daughter, never knowing they were being hidden away in Linda's closet. There's more, Tom said, pulling out what looked like school photos, pictures of me at 6, 7, 8 years old, all with little notes on the back from my mom. Sarah lost her first tooth today. Sarah learned to ride a bike. Sarah won the spelling bee. 20 years of updates. 20 years of my mom trying to include Tom in my life. 20 years of Linda making sure he never knew. Why would she do this? Jake asked, his voice breaking. Why would Mom keep these from Dad? Tom was quiet for a long moment. Because she was scared. Scared that if I knew how much your Aunt Michelle wanted me to be part of Sarah's life, I might leave. Scared that I might choose Sarah over the family we were building together. But that's not fair to anyone, I said. Not to you, not to me, not to Mom. No, it's not. But people do crazy things when they're afraid of losing someone they love. Dad put his arm around me. Sarah, I need you to know. I would have supported your mom if she'd wanted Tom to be more involved. We could have figured out a way to make it work. But Linda made sure that never happened. Linda made a terrible choice based on fear and jealousy. That doesn't excuse it, but I can understand it. I looked at all those letters, all those missed opportunities, all those years when Tom and I could have had a real relationship if Linda hadn't interfered. Part of me was furious with her, but another part of me, I don't know, I felt sorry for her. She'd been so afraid of losing her husband that she'd sabotaged any chance of their marriage being based on honesty and trust. What happens now? Jake asked. Tom carefully put the letters back in the box. Now I drive home and try to have a conversation with your mother about why she kept these from me for 27 years. And you and Emma decide if you can forgive both your parents for the mess we've made of this family. And Sarah? Jake looked at me. What happens with you? I looked out over the lake, thinking about everything that had happened in the past week. A week ago, I was Sarah Mitchell, freelance writer from Brooklyn with a normal, slightly dysfunctional family. Now I was Sarah Mitchell, freelance writer from Brooklyn, with a very complicated family tree, and a biological father who'd been kept from me by his own wife's fear and jealousy. I guess I figure out how to have two fathers, I said finally. How to love the man who raised me and get to know the man who helped create me. How to forgive the adults in my life for thinking they knew what was best for me without actually asking me what I wanted. And what do you want? Tom asked. I thought about it for a moment. I want Dad to stay exactly who he's always been to me. I want to get to know you better, Tom, but without any pressure or expectations. I want Jake and Emma to be my siblings instead of just my cousins, if they're okay with that. And I want Linda to get some therapy and figure out how to stop making decisions based on fear. Jake actually smiled a little at that. Good luck with that last one. And I want Mom to know that I'm not angry with her for trying to include Tom in my life. I want her to know that I understand why she stopped trying when the letters went unanswered. Tom nodded. I'll call her tomorrow. I'll tell her everything. About the letters, about Linda hiding them, about how sorry I am that I missed so much of your childhood. Good. Because she's going to have a lot of feelings about this when she finds out. That's when my phone buzzed with a text. It was from Linda. Sarah, I'm sorry you had to find out the truth this way. You didn't deserve that. I hope someday you can understand why I made the choices I made. I never meant to hurt you. I showed the text to everyone. That's something, at least, Dad said. It's a start, I agreed. But I had a feeling this was just the beginning of a very long, very complicated conversation that our family was going to be having for years to come. 3 months later, I'm sitting in my Brooklyn apartment, getting ready to publish the article that started this whole mess. Not this story, that's too personal, too raw, but a piece about family secrets and how they affect everyone involved. It's going to run in a major online magazine, and it might be the best thing I've ever written. A lot has happened since that crazy 4th of July weekend. Linda and Tom are officially separated, but they're in marriage counseling. Turns out that hiding 27 years' worth of letters from your husband is the kind of thing that requires professional help to work through. Linda admitted that she'd been terrified Tom would leave her for my mom if he knew how much Mom wanted him to be part of my life. She'd convinced herself that she was protecting her family, but really she was just protecting herself. The crazy thing? Tom never would have left Linda for my mom. He told me that what happened between them was a one-time thing, a mistake born out of loneliness and too much alcohol. He loved Linda, still loves her, but he'd also spent 27 years wondering why my mom had cut him out of my life so completely. Now that they both know the truth, they're trying to figure out if their marriage can survive. Some days it looks hopeful. Other days, well, let's just say there's a reason Tom is staying in a hotel right now. Jake and Emma have been amazing through all of this. It was weird at first, calling them my half-siblings instead of my cousins, but we figured it out. Emma actually moved to New York for a job, and we've been hanging out a lot. Turns out we have more in common than just DNA. We're both terrible at dating, and we both have an unhealthy obsession with true crime podcasts. Jake is still processing everything, but he's come to visit twice. The 3 of us went to a Yankees game last month, and it felt normal. Different than before, but good different. Dad and I are closer than ever. If anything, this whole mess made me realize how lucky I am to have him as my father. He didn't have to raise me, didn't have to love me like his own, but he chose to. Every single day for 27 years, he chose to be my dad. That means more to me than any DNA test ever could. Tom and I are still figuring out our relationship. We text now, which is new. He sends me pictures of the lake house, articles he thinks I'd find interesting, dad jokes that are actually pretty funny. Last week he drove down to the city just to take me to dinner. We talked for 3 hours about everything and nothing. My work, his divorce, our shared love of bad reality TV shows. It's not a traditional father-daughter relationship, and it probably never will be, but it's something. It's honest. And after 27 years of secrets, honest feels pretty good. My mom, predictably, had a complete meltdown when I told her about the letters. She'd kept copies of all of them, apparently, and had spent years thinking Tom just didn't care about me. When she found out Linda had been intercepting them, she actually drove to Connecticut and had what she called a frank discussion with Linda. I'm pretty sure it involved a lot of yelling and possibly some wine throwing, but they worked it out eventually. Mom's also been going to therapy, dealing with her own guilt about the whole situation. She's realized that she could have tried harder to contact Tom, could have shown up at the lake house or called him directly instead of just sending letters, but she was young and scared and trying to protect everyone's feelings. Sound familiar? The funny thing is, our family reunions are actually better now. We had one last month for Great Aunt Margaret's 80th birthday, and while it was definitely awkward for the first hour or so, it ended up being one of the best family gatherings we've ever had. Maybe because we'd all stopped pretending that we were perfect. Maybe because all the secrets were finally out in the open. Linda even came, though she and Tom barely spoke to each other. But she pulled me aside and apologized, really apologized, for keeping those letters from Tom. She cried, I cried, and we hugged it out. I'm not saying we're going to be best friends anytime soon, but I understand why she did what she did. Fear makes people do terrible things sometimes. The truth is, I'm grateful for how everything happened. Not for the lies or the secrets or the years of missed opportunities, but for the fact that it all came out when it did. I'm old enough now to handle the complexity of having two fathers. I'm old enough to understand that people make mistakes and that families are messy and that love doesn't always look the way you think it should. If I'd found out when I was younger, it might have destroyed me. It might have made me question everything about my identity, my relationships, my place in the world. But at 27, I can see it for what it is. A complicated situation that some well-meaning but flawed people handled imperfectly. And you know what? That's okay. Because perfect families don't exist anyway. They're all just groups of people who love each other despite their flaws, who show up for each other when it matters, who choose each other again and again even when it's hard. Tom might be my biological father, but Robert Mitchell is my dad. Linda might have made terrible choices, but she was protecting the family she loved. My mom might have given up too easily on including Tom in my life, but she was trying to respect everyone's boundaries. None of them are perfect, but they're mine. This messy, complicated, sometimes dysfunctional group of people is my family, and I wouldn't trade them for anything, even if they did wait 27 years to tell me the truth about where I came from. But hey, better late than never, right? Oh, and remember how I said I'd stay away from the reunion if Dad wanted me to? Well, obviously that didn't work out. But you know what? I'm glad I went. I'm glad I was there when everything exploded. I'm glad I got to be part of the conversation about my own life instead of having other people make decisions for me. Sometimes you have to walk straight into the mess to find your way through it. And sometimes the best family reunions are the ones that completely fall apart and then get put back together in a new, more honest way. So there you have it. The crazy story of how I found out my uncle was actually my biological father, how my family's biggest secret finally came to light, and how we all learned that love is stronger than DNA and honesty is better than comfortable lies. Thanks for sticking with me through this wild ride, guys. If you enjoyed this story, smash that like button, let me know in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to follow for more crazy family drama. Because trust me, with the Mitchells, there's always more drama coming. But hopefully next time, we'll see it coming before it explodes at a family barbecue. Love you all, and remember, your family might be crazy, but at least they're your crazy people. Hold on to them tight, tell them the truth, and don't wait 27 years to have the important conversations. Peace out. Sarah.